off of that bus. You know you've been on the struggle bus way too long. It's time to get off of that bus. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Maxwell Team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television, as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the Story Power Academy Retreat. This Story Power Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I know what it's like to live on the struggle bus. I mean, like, way back in the day, we used to live in East Texas. And there was this really cool place in East Texas around a very specific lake called Lake Palestine. And around Lake Palestine, you could buy properties. And we bought one. We never built on it, but we bought a little property. Then we converted it to a timeshare. But on this property, you could actually drive around and there would be like these beautiful mansions that backed up to the water where there was actually a boat ramp driveway that went right down to the lake. And 2 properties over, a school bus with the windows painted in and a makeshift air conditioner on the roof and a generator stuck on the back of it. And that was somebody's home. And look, if that's the home that you want to have, I get it. It's totally cool. You're off the grid. It's totally yours. Do whatever you want to with it. Well, that's why you brought the property in the first place, right? But how many people live on the struggle bus? They live constantly in that place where, look, if the amount of time and energy and emotional investment that you pour into the negativity of your life is equal to or greater than the amount of time, energy, and emotional investment that you make in moving to the next level, you're going to spend the rest of your life on the struggle bus. Well, I know because I have dear friends and family members who have chosen the struggle bus path. I recently heard someone say in the same paragraph, maybe not the same sentence, but they said there's a success quest and there's a struggle fest. Now, they used them as coined phrases, kind of colloquial and nearly comical, but I think if you were to ask yourself, is there a chance that at some moment in my life there was a T in the road and I had to go one way or the other? Think more like the derailleur on the back of your bicycle when you click that little thing and it moves the chain over and it either gets really, really hard to pedal because you're in a low gear and it's made, or in a high gear and it's made for really cruising down the road with, once you got momentum, that high gear is really easy to pedal, but you could be in a low gear where you're pedaling really, really fast and you're going nowhere. The derailleur, that's what that little mechanism is called. The derailleur decides how hard you pedal. The struggle, how hard you have to push. Well, what if it was also the same as the derailleur they use in the railroad? Or the train is coming down the track and if that switch just goes one way or the other, the train either goes to the right or to the left. Now, it may be that those 2 tracks are parallel for, I don't know, 100 yards, a mile or two, 50 miles or two. It might be that they diverge very quickly and go completely different directions. What if the difference between the success quest and the struggle fest, the struggle bus or the lap of luxury, what if What if it was just a switch in your mind? What if you realize that your deepest, darkest nightmares, the fears that drive you up a wall or into the bottle or around the corner into the dark where you hide from everybody, what if those deepest, darkest fears were just a switch? What if you could simply one day decide, I don't want to live like that anymore? Now, this guy right here, I lived with an addiction for 25 years. When it finally broke in my life, it was amazing how simple it was when I look back. It was a choice. I know there are people who make bazillions of dollars telling you that that's not the case. In fact, I know there are organizations that their opening line is, once an addict, always an addict, you will always be an addict. I disagree. And I'm evidence. And we can have that discussion. But I can tell you that the addiction that I had, or the addiction to alcohol, the addiction to drugs, the addiction to many other things, by and large, it's a choice. Yes, there are some chemical dependencies. I get that. I'm not trying to minimize that. But it's a choice. Oh, and for what it's worth, the addiction to drama has the same level of chemical dependency. The addiction to smartphones has the same level of chemical dependency. The addiction to television, to fighting, to arguing, to domestic violence. The dopamine, serotonin, that crazy little loop in your mind, in your heart, in your emotions, in your biochemical reactions. Yeah, same level of addiction. Same level of chemical dependency. And still a choice. It's a choice. So if you found yourself on the struggle bus and you're thinking, how in the world do I get off of here? It's time for me to get off the struggle bus. I don't care if you're 19 or 29 or 59. You can choose to get off the struggle bus. And I'm going to tell you the hardest thing to realize is it hasn't always been this way, and it doesn't have to be this way, and it won't always be this way. Now you're at the T in the road. You with me? It hasn't always been this way. It won't always be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. You choose. Do you want to keep going down the road of the struggle bus? Do you want to continue to fight for everything that you've got? You want to have those nightmares that it's just not going to be enough. You're not going to get it. It's not going to be, life is never going to be wonderful. That's just not your opportunity. The same individual who mentioned the struggle fest and the success quest also threw a nice little phrase out there. It just slipped my mind. I'll come back to it. The idea that one person makes $30,000 in a day, another makes $30,000 in a month, another makes $30,000 in a year, and the only difference between them is their ability to perceive. Here's what he said. When you're favored, those who are not favored hate you. The challenge is sometimes we thrive on that hate. It's an addiction, that drama. We feel like we've accomplished something because other people hate us. Sometimes we feel like I can't accomplish anything because other people hate me. And sometimes we think other people hate us when they're not thinking about us at all. They couldn't care less. In fact, many of them are still stuck on their own struggle bus. They're not paying attention to you at all. The only thing they want from you is to, well, pity them a little bit more. See their victimhood a little bit brighter. Recognize that they don't have the same opportunity that you do. When I heard him mention that there are people who make $30,000 a day, I went, that's crazy amount of money. I wouldn't even know what to do with that amount of money. I've never seen $30,000 in a month myself. I mean, I lived on $30,000 a year for a while, so I know what that looks like, but $30,000 a month. And then I got to thinking, I remember working with a business partner of mine probably a dozen years ago. He's still a friend and a mentor. But in one of our conversations, I told him, I've never broken six figures. I don't know what that looks like. And he said, I just retired from a job where my salary was $30,000 a month. What do you even do with that kind of money? That was my thought. I mean, I made it in a year. He made it in a month. How do you ever run out of money with that much money? And then I realized, when you're doing good things for other people, when you're taking care of yourself the way you're supposed to, and you're taking care of those that you care about, that amount of money doesn't last as long as you think it does. It doesn't go as far as you think it does. And the challenge that many of us had, I grew up with it, maybe you have as well, or maybe someone you know and care about. Maybe it's not even you, it's just someone that you know and care about. Is still struggling with that old identity phrase that the rich get rich, the poor go broke. It's the rich's fault. Who wants to be rich? Let me tell you something. I struggled with that for so long. When I wrote this book, Live a More Excellent Life, one of the things that I really struggled with was the identity that I don't want to be rich because I don't like those people. I watched my mom struggle in that most of my life. She didn't go to college until she was in her late 40s. She graduated when she was 50. That story is in here. And the story of how she completely changed her mindset and ended up investing in people whose lives had been given up on by themselves and others, and saw them go on to graduate from high school, go into ROTC. That's what's in this book. But there are about 9 other lessons that I learned in writing this book that, man, I didn't grow up with them. I grew up in a neighborhood of struggle buses. Everybody in my world lived on that struggle bus. Everybody in my world had that crashed identity. Everybody in my world, everybody I spent time with had a reason to be a victim, had a reason to pity themselves, had a reason to say, I can't do any better than this. This is the best I'll ever do. That was an exact quote from my mother. She said, I dropped out of high school. This is the best I'll ever do. No, that's the lie. That's the door locked from the inside of the struggle bus. Unlock the door. Get off the bus. If the wheels on the bus got to go round and round, let it go somewhere else. You're at a place. It has not always been this way. It will not always be this way. You have to decide which way it's going to be. Now, look, you can go to Amazon and order this book right now. Cost you $15. I promise you it will challenge the way you think. If you're living on the struggle bus, or someone that you care about is living on the struggle bus, and they've painted in the windows, maybe even add a little tin foil so the light can't come in, they've put their generator outside and their porta potty underneath, if they're living there by choice, it's time to get off the bus. It's time to move on with your life and realize there's so much more potential in you. You were not made to live like that. That is not the plight that was designed for anyone. Our Creator had a better view of you than you have right now. And I want to challenge you to see you differently. Now, if you're someone who doesn't live on the struggle bus, but you know someone who does, then I believe your obligation, like mine, is to pull up in front of that bus and honk and wake them up and help them understand that's not where you belong. I get it that that's where you are. I might even understand all of the things that happened to you to get you to that space. Losses of loved ones, diagnoses, chronic illnesses. I get it. PTSD, bipolar disorder, ADHD, hard life to function with. I get it. And I'm still going to say, you hold the key to the lock because it's on the inside of the door. You may have to do some really hard stuff to get out of that bus. Yeah. But if you want out of the bus, and that's the hardest question, do you want out of the bus? If you want out of the bus, no one can take you out of the bus but you. There's no one who's going to change your struggle journey before you do. No amount of money is going to fix it. How do we know? Because watch them. Stand in the convenience store in the poverty-stricken parts of town for an hour and count the number of people who walk in with their last pennies. They buy the cheapest drink they can get, maybe a soda off the fountain. They buy the cheapest, biggest can of their favorite beverage, whether it's a tea or an alcohol. And they make their way to the counter, and with whatever change is left over, they buy a scratch-off ticket. And if that ticket wins, they immediately convert the winning back to another ticket. sometimes an upgrade. Right, you could throw a $10,000 stack of coins at them. You could buy their bus, buy their property, build something else, but their mindset, the choices they make, the decisions that drive them, their internal belief system, the story they tell in the mirror will bring the bus back. They live at the bus stop for the struggle bus. They want to be in the struggle bus. They'll tell you they don't want to because internally they're miserable and they're in conflict. But the story that they're telling, the life that they're building, the relationships they're holding on to, always turn left at the T road. They always go back to the struggle bus. Why? It's a habit. It's an addiction. They don't want it. They just don't know how to fix it. Get them in this book. It's a great start. Get them into the 9 Lessons of Mastery course. That's a great second step. The 9 Lessons of Mastery cost you a couple of $100. It's worth your investment in them, I promise you. But they can do it online, right from a cell phone. They can go to the public library and pull the silly thing up. All you do is log into their account. They can watch the videos right there. It will challenge the way you think about you. It will challenge the story that you're telling in the mirror. That's where story power began. Story power began when I realized it was this guy telling all the lies. It was this guy destroying my life. It was this guy that kept getting to that T road and making the choice to go back to the struggle bus. It's a choice. The addiction to drama, the addiction to the pity, the addiction to the victimhood, the addiction to woe is me. That's what keeps making the left turn at the T road. And if you want to make the right turn, you've got to start hanging out with some different people. Charlie Tremendous Jones said, your life is going to be a reflection of the 5 people you hang out with and the books you read. Start here. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich is good stuff. I can tell you, I've read it a couple of times. I can also tell you, Think and Grow Rich is high-level thinking. I know people who have studied that book like a religious devotee every year for 45 years. Their life is different than it was from before they started reading that, but that's some top-level stuff. If you barely made it out of high school with your reading literacy, this book was designed for you, for those who are starting out and those who are starting over. I'm not saying it's kindergarten-level stuff. It's pretty serious stuff, but it's written in a way that a high school student could look at it and go, oh, well, that just makes sense. Why didn't I think of that before? Because that's where I was when I wrote it. I realized when I wrote my first book that all the leadership stuff that I'd been studying at that point for like 6 or 7 years, my mother wasn't going to read that stuff. She was a high school dropout. Her view of her was romance novels and working 72 hours at a time. She had no ambition to go forward with that. And when I started working on her story to write the book, I started working on my own story. I'm going to tell you right now, there are many, many people with phenomenal potential. Maybe 19, maybe 29, maybe 59 years old, and they're still looking at their life going, this is the best I'll ever do. I challenge you to help them understand that's a lie they've chosen to believe, and the problem is the liar is them. Maybe somebody else told them the best you'll ever do is go to jail. You've already reached the lid of your capability and competency in life. You're done. And I'm going to tell you right now, so long as they're taking breath, that's not true. Because I know whose image you were created in. And that image, that story, is incredible. In fact, that person said, anything you can ask or even imagine, stretch as high as you possibly can. Think as big as you could possibly think. I don't just want to get out of this bus. I want to build a mansion big enough to bring my entire family to live in my compound. And the imagination your Creator has for you is greater than that. Think of the best dream you've ever had, walking along the beach, staring out at the ocean, knowing I don't have to go to work today, I own the beach. His imagination is bigger than that. I want to feed all of the hungry children all over the world. I want to end sex trafficking tomorrow. His imagination for you is bigger than that. He's already seen you do things you don't even know you're capable of. He believes more in you than you believe in you. Now again, if the person watching this is not the one on the struggle bus, but someone that you care about is on that struggle bus, this is your call. This is your mandate. Send them this video. Send them the link that's in the description below to get the 9 lessons of mastery. If you have to, spend a couple $100, less than a cup of coffee a day. Go buy it for them and get them started. For $15, less than a cup of coffee with them today. You can go to Amazon and get them started on the book. It's really simple. In fact, I think the Kindle version of it's still only 99 cents. You can download it for 99 cents. If you can't afford the 99 cents, send me a message. I will send you the ebook myself. But get started. Get off the struggle bus. The world needs you not to be living in a pity party addicted to your drama, but making an impact in the people around you. I don't care if you become a millionaire this year. I don't care if you become a multi-billionaire by the end of next year. I'm not going to be here jealous of your success or the favor that is poured on you. But I am going to challenge you to say, if you're living on the struggle bus, you may be living in a pity party of your own making, where the key to the door is locked from the inside, and you're the only one that has the key, and it's time for you to get off the bus. And it's not just because I feel sorry for you living on the bus. It's because there are people out there right now who need what you have in this world. They need you to get off the bus to save their life. Maybe to run around to all the other buses in that lot and tell them, get off the bus. Maybe to go somewhere with the kind of talent, the kind of gift, the kind of power that you have to free people who don't even know they're trapped. And if you don't get off the bus, there's not much hope for them. I'm challenging you to get off the bus. I'm challenging you, if you're a friend of someone who lives on the struggle bus, knock on the door. Get off the bus. Get on with your life. It's a choice, and it's time for you to get off the struggle bus. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Get off that bus.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training. Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com.